The rain hammered against the windows of the small bookstore as Emma wiped down the counter for the third time that evening. She had been working at Chapters and Coffee for nearly 2 years now, and the routine had become comforting in its predictability. Sort the new arrivals, arrange the display tables, brew fresh coffee every hour. Her life in this quiet coastal town was exactly what she'd wanted after leaving the chaos of the city behind. The bell above the door chimed, pulling Emma from her thoughts. A woman stepped inside, shaking droplets from her dark hair. She wore a leather jacket over a simple white shirt and carried a worn messenger bag that looked like it had traveled the world. Emma found herself staring longer than she should have. "Terrible weather," the woman said, her voice carrying a slight accent Emma couldn't quite place. "I was told this is the best bookstore in town." "The only bookstore in town," Emma replied with a small smile. "But I'd like to think we're still the best." The woman laughed, a genuine sound that made something flutter in Emma's chest. "I'm looking for something specific. Poetry, modern women writers, preferably something I haven't read before." Emma stepped out from behind the counter. "Follow me. I think I have exactly what you're looking for." As they walked between the shelves, Emma noticed the woman observing everything with intense curiosity, her fingers trailing along the spines of books as if greeting old friends. There was something magnetic about her presence that filled the quiet space. "I'm Sophia, by the way," the woman said suddenly, turning to face Emma in the narrow aisle between shelves. "Emma." Their hands met briefly, and Emma felt warmth spread through her fingers. Sophia returned to the bookstore every evening that week. She would arrive just before closing time, browse the shelves with deliberate slowness, and always end up at the counter where Emma waited. They began talking about books, authors, the lives they'd left behind. Emma learned that Sophia was a travel writer, currently working on a collection of essays about forgotten places. Sophia learned that Emma had run from a corporate job in Seattle, seeking something real. On Friday night, after Emma locked the front door, Sophia lingered by the window. The rain had finally stopped, leaving the street glistening under streetlights. "Come with me," Sophia said suddenly. "There is a place I want to show you." They walked through the quiet downtown, their shoulders occasionally brushing. Sophia led Emma to the old pier at the edge of town, where fishing boats bobbed gently in the harbor. The moon cast silver light across the water, and for a moment Emma forgot how to breathe. "I leave tomorrow," Sophia said softly. "I have assignments waiting in 3 different countries." Emma's chest tightened. She'd known this was coming, had told herself not to get attached. "How long will you be gone?" "I don't know," Sophia replied honestly. She turned to face Emma, and in the moonlight, Emma could see the conflict in her eyes. "I've spent 5 years moving constantly, telling myself that was enough. But this week, standing in that bookstore with you, I realized something was missing." Emma reached out, her hand finding Sophia's. "What are you saying?" "I'm saying, maybe I'm tired of running," Sophia whispered. "Or maybe I'm just running toward something different now." When their lips met, it felt like the culmination of every moment they'd shared since that rainy evening. Emma's fingers tangled in Sophia's dark hair, and the world fell away, leaving only the two of them beneath the stars. Sophia didn't leave the next morning. She canceled her flight while Emma slept, curled against her in the small apartment above the bookstore. When Emma woke to find Sophia still there, brewing coffee in her tiny kitchen, something shifted in her chest. "I called my editor," Sophia said, handing Emma a mug. "Told her I needed a month here, maybe longer." They fell into a rhythm over the following weeks. Sophia wrote at a corner table in the bookstore while Emma worked, the sound of her typing becoming another comforting piece of Emma's daily routine. In the evenings, they explored the coastline together, discovering hidden beaches and cliff paths. Sophia photographed everything while Emma collected shells and sea glass. But doubt crept in slowly. Emma noticed how Sophia's eyes lingered on travel magazines, how she grew restless when the rain kept them inside. One evening, Emma found Sophia staring at her laptop, reading an email about an assignment in Portugal. You should go, Emma said quietly from the doorway. Sophia looked up, startled. I'm not taking it, but you want to. Emma sat beside her. I can see it in your face when you talk about traveling. It's who you are. And what about us? Sophia's voice broke slightly. Emma took her hand. I've spent 2 years hiding in this town, convincing myself that safety meant staying still. Maybe I was wrong. Maybe home isn't a place. Sophia studied Emma's face carefully. What are you saying? I'm saying the bookstore needs a manager, not an owner. I'm saying my laptop works anywhere. Emma smiled despite the tears in her eyes. I'm saying maybe I could write too. Stories about the places we go together. Sophia pulled Emma close, kissing her deeply. Are you sure? Terrified, Emma whispered against her lips. But sure. They sold the bookstore to a young couple who promised to preserve its spirit. Emma and Sophia packed their lives into 2 backpacks and a shared suitcase, keeping only what mattered. The farewell was bittersweet. Emma's parents drove up for lunch, stunned but ultimately supportive. The bookstore's regular customers brought gifts and hugged them both fiercely. Their first destination was Portugal, where Sophia had turned down the assignment 3 months earlier. They rented a small apartment in Lisbon with a balcony overlooking the Tagus River. Emma set up her laptop at a wooden table and began writing, her fingers moving across the keys with newfound purpose. She wrote about leaving, about fear, about finding love in unexpected places. Sophia worked on her essays while Emma crafted short stories about the people they met. A fisherman who'd been married to his husband for 40 years taught them to make traditional seafood stew. An elderly artist invited them into her studio and showed them paintings inspired by lost loves. Each person became a character in Emma's growing collection. 3 weeks into their journey, Emma received an email from a literary magazine requesting more stories. She forwarded it to Sophia in disbelief. Sophia read it and pulled her into a spinning embrace. You're going to be published. Sophia laughed against Emma's neck. We're going to be published, Emma corrected, gesturing to Sophia's completed manuscript on the desk. That evening, they sat on their balcony watching the sunset paint the sky in shades of amber and rose. Sophia held Emma's hand, tracing small circles on her palm. No regrets? Sophia asked, softly. Emma leaned her head on Sophia's shoulder. Only that it took me so long to realize that home was always meant to be wherever you are. Their fingers interlaced as the city lights began to twinkle below them, marking the beginning of their endless adventure together. 6 months into their travels, they found themselves in a small village in southern France. The assignment was simple. Sophia would photograph local vineyards while Emma interviewed the winemakers. But something unexpected happened when they met Marguerite, an 80-year-old woman who'd been running her family's vineyard alone for decades. Over wine and bread, Marguerite told them her story. In her youth, she'd fallen in love with another woman, a scandal that had nearly destroyed her family. Her lover had been forced to leave, and Marguerite had never married, pouring all her passion into the land instead. But you never found her again? Emma asked, her throat tight. Marguerite smiled sadly. She died 20 years ago. But I kept loving her every single day. Love like that doesn't need proximity to survive. That night, Emma couldn't sleep. She watched Sophia breathing softly beside her, silver moonlight illuminating her face. The fear that had been growing quietly suddenly crystallized. What if something happened to one of them? What if their adventure ended too soon? You're thinking too loudly, Sophia murmured, eyes still closed. Emma laughed despite herself. Marguerite's story scared me. Sophia opened her eyes and pulled Emma closer. Then let's make sure our story is different. Let's fill every moment so full of life that we have no room for regrets. Promise me something, Emma whispered. Promise that no matter where we go, no matter what happens, we'll always find our way back to each other. Sophia kissed her forehead, then her lips. I promise. In every lifetime, In every possible world, I would find you again. They held each other as dawn broke over the vineyards. Two souls committed to writing their story together, one beautiful chapter at a time. 2 years had passed since Emma and Sophia first met in the bookstore. Their collection of stories and essays had been published to modest acclaim, earning them invitations to literary festivals across Europe. They'd settled into a rhythm of constant motion, finding home in each other rather than any single place. It was in Barcelona where everything changed. Emma had a book signing scheduled, her first major event as a published author. Sophia was supposed to be there, but she hadn't returned from her morning photography shoot. Hours passed with no word, no messages. Emma's joy curdled into panic as evening fell. The police found Sophia unconscious on a rocky beach, struck by a sudden illness no doctor could immediately diagnose. Emma sat in the hospital for 3 days, holding Sophia's hand, whispering promises and memories. On the 4th morning, Sophia woke. The doctors think it was severe dehydration, combined with heat exhaustion. Sophia explained weakly days later. They said, "I'm lucky you found me when you did." But something had shifted. The illness had been a warning neither could ignore. Sophia's editor called with an offer, a position as creative director for a travel magazine's headquarters in Barcelona, with flexibility to travel quarterly instead of constantly. Emma received an offer to teach creative writing at a local university. They looked at each other across their small apartment, understanding without words what needed to happen. "We're really stopping?" Emma asked softly. "We're not stopping," Sophia corrected, pulling Emma close. "We're just changing direction, building something permanent with roots." 6 months later, they stood in the same bookstore where they'd first met, now owned by Emma's cousin. The walls held photographs from their travels, and Emma's books lined an entire shelf. Sophia's essays hung framed above them. Emma placed a velvet box on the counter. Inside wasn't a ring, but 2 house keys. "Home," Emma whispered, as Sophia's eyes filled with tears. They had finally learned that the greatest adventure wasn't in running toward something, but in choosing to build a life worth staying for.